That makes 7 in a row for the Chicago White Sox as they were embarrassed by the Toronto Blue Jays 8-0 on Wednesday. Just a horrible road trip for the White Sox. Sox managed just 4 hits once again. Sox were able to get swept in back-to-back series before they won back-to-back games this season. White Sox fall to 11 games under 500. It's the worst start to the season for the White Sox since 1986. White Sox look now to get anything going as they head back home with Dylan Cease on the mound. Problem is, it's against the Tampa Bay Rays.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong diehard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The White Sox will play host to the Tampa Bay Rays on Thursday. Dylan Cease on the hill for the White Sox. Catch every pitch of the hometown White Sox broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Wow. I mean, just wow. Never did I think it was going to be this bad. I didn't think they were World Series bound. Again, I thought 90 games. Okay, you got this lineup. You're telling me that you're planning on, hope and health. Lightning might not strike twice. You got a competent manager that seems to know what he's doing, surrounding himself with other smart people. You got an actual left fielder to play left field. Okay, I can see it. I see a path. It was still a stretch, but I was going to stay positive. And right now, I'm blown away, absolutely blown away. Our White Sox are 7-18 to start off this 2023 season, 7 games back in the Central. But I really wouldn't pay attention about that 7 games back. It is a horrible division. I shouldn't say horrible division. It is a very weak division. It's horrible that the Sox are so far back and in 4th place of this division. Just unreal. Sox lost to the Jays on Wednesday afternoon, 8-0. White Sox have now lost 7 in a row. They have been swept in back-to-back series before winning back-to-back games. 24 innings without scoring a run, a winless road trip between Tampa and Toronto, a minus 49 run differential in 25 games. Their 7-18 start to the season is the worst since 1986, the Ronald Reagan administration. So a little over 10 days ago, Rick Hahn opened up his mouth and said this on April 15th. You guys, meaning the media, always hear from the most negative fans. The fans I talk to never come up to me and say, Rick, this is the start of the same stuff as last year. They seem to seek you guys out in the comment sections. Imagine that. Again, Rick Hahn, our general manager. Well, it's not the same stuff. It's far worse this season, Rick. What we're seeing right now is like nothing I could have imagined back in the fall of 2016 when Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams got permission to tear this whole thing down and started trading off assets and started to get all of these high picks that, boy, when my mind starts wandering about that time period and the excitement and the hope that we all had of what, 2021, 2022, for a while, this is going to be such a competitive team. This is going to be a monster in the AL. This start is just unreal. I mean, to Hahn's point, when he says that he's not having folks come up to him, I mean, what do you expect, Rick Hahn? I mean, who are you rubbing shoulders with in actuality? I mean, when you cancel Sox Fest again and further limit fans from the ability to publicly address the Sox front office, then yes, you are only going to hear from the people in your back pocket that you associate with in the front office. I mean, sponsors. I mean, I don't know who he is talking to, but that is just a delusional comment from him back 10 days ago, and it's gotten worse since that comment. I listened to Wednesday's game on the radio, the entirety of it, with Len and DJ. They complement each other pretty well. I don't listen to a lot of games on the radio, and I've given DJ a hard time over the years, but he's got some good baseball insight. He sometimes just doesn't sound comfortable still behind the microphone. And Len is, a professional broadcaster. They go together pretty well. And they were talking on the radio about just the lack of consistent at-bats from the White Sox, and singling out Benintendi, Vaughn, and Grandal, who didn't play on Wednesday, wasn't in the starting lineup at least. Those are the only guys that have been getting consistent at-bats. Now, the power isn't necessarily there, but they're getting on base, whether it's walk or by hit, and it sounds like, the Sox just don't have a plan, at least from Len and DJ, especially with this past Toronto series. And I guess you can go back further games. It just looks like they got up to bat. I'll figure it out when the pitcher starts throwing. And that was the thing that we were trying to avoid this year, that hopefully Pedro Grifol and his new coaching staff would be able to get these new messages sent in the offseason and throughout spring training. And maybe these guys just don't want to listen. They're like, look, I'm doing it my own way. Don't bother me. And maybe they're saying to Grifol, maybe not to his face, but behind his back or in their head, what do you know? You've never been a manager in the MLB before. You're telling me I got to change my approach. I'm not going to change it. Maybe it takes this kind of start for guys to finally maybe lean in and say, okay, yeah, whatever I was trying at the beginning of the season, I wanted to do it my way. I've got to change that. I don't know if they're able to do that. And even if they decide to do that, it's going to take time. Len and DJ talking about how Toronto was prepared. I mean, Toronto acted the way I wanted the Sox to act, not only with the type of off seasons they have had and the money they've spent. They've spent it wisely, but they just seemed really prepared with the arms that we were throwing. They had good at bats. They had a plan. They can hit too. Boy, can they hit. They can keep the line moving, and they've got pop. White Sox scored 2 runs in the entire series. They only managed 11 hits. Robert in the series was 1 for 11 with 8 strikeouts. In his Tampa Bay series was awful. The series before. I don't want to pick on Luis Robert Jr. I mean, nobody was hitting on this White Sox team, and I really don't know how that changes. But a healthy Robert, which he has been healthy, playing consistently, he should be a menace. He should be an absolute beast, the player that we were told about. And maybe that's my fault as a Sox fan, that I bought into what these scouts and what these other baseball prognosticators, these lifelong baseball folks said about this talent in Luis Robert. Just wait. He's got all the tools. And maybe it's, between the ears. Maybe it's something that just can't be quantified, something that's not going to show up, in the metrics. And maybe it's something else that's going on with him. The Cuban Mike Trout, watch out for Luis Robert Jr. Boy, did I want to believe in that. Felt like you kind of saw it at the beginning of this season. I don't know what happened to him. Where'd he go? Thankfully, he hasn't really been taking it out to the outfield with him. He's been playing some solid outfield, but man, we need that offense with no Moncada, no Tim Anderson. He was the guy that I was hoping, along with Eloy, that would put this team on their shoulders, let Colas and Andrus and, some other guys figure it out. But we wouldn't notice that so much because Robert and Eloy would be mashing. Not the case. White Sox dropped to 28th in all of baseball when it comes to offense. They are 29th now in pitching. Their bullpen is 28th in all of baseball. After Wednesday's loss, Pedro Grifol, this is what he had to say. Yeah, I really didn't anticipate it being this way, but you don't control the cards you're dealt. You control how you respond to it, and that's the only thing we can control. I've been on teams that you go through a streak like this, and the season is over. This doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way at all. I don't know why. This is a good team. There's talent here. There's care here. There's work here. We just have to be professionals and grind this thing through. We're not going to panic through this thing. I'll reflect and work and make adjustments and be hard on myself, but I'm definitely not going to panic. As far as personnel changes, I'll wait until we get back. We believe in these guys. We've got to continue to work, and we've got to clean things up. I commend Pedro Grifol for remaining calm, although maybe a complete panic attack or throwing people under the bus or just showing some real emotion, maybe, I don't know, that would light a fire under some people. But he has kept it civil. I mean, he's trying to say the right things. Saying that, these are the cards that you're dealt. It almost talks about like, well, this is the team that I was given when I became manager. There's nothing I can do about this. Almost if you read between the lines, he's saying, if I had it my way, like we'd have different type of players on this team. I don't know. I'm just, kind of assuming there. But his whole quote there after the game, it sounded exactly like what Rick Renteria would say back in 2017, 2018, 2019. We didn't expect much out of those teams. We were just looking for some solid baseball to be played, guys developing, getting ready for the push. Well, boy, I feel for Pedro Grifol. I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into. This is Rick Hahn's hire, though. Had an impromptu mailbag concept for today's episode. I asked fans on Twitter for some feedback after Wednesday's loss. Really appreciate all the people that got back to me, just some venting, some comments, all that stuff. Going to get to those comments in just a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the parts that fit right, they are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on eBay Motors. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. So our White Sox, they play the Tampa Bay Rays on Thursday night on the south side. Dylan Cease on the hill to kick things off. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with Sirius XM and the SXM app. Search White Sox. I haven't done a mailbag in a while. And if you're new to the Locked On White Sox podcast, I was doing some fan mailbags in the off season through January and February, even a little bit through spring training. And if you've ever got questions, comments, anything, you can send them over at lockedonsox@gmail.com. And you can find me on Twitter. I'm usually on there during games. Send me a message, comment, whatever. Sometimes I'll try to throw these episodes together. And I felt like after Wednesday, I just got to hear from some other Sox fans and kind of talk about this, almost a therapy session, really. And Here's the stuff I got. Thank you so much for everybody for chiming in here. This was a comment I received. I didn't think they were going to be any good this year, but this is beyond bad. They look like they flat out quit, and it's April 26th. Yeah, that's the sad part. The feeling like they flat out quit. These games aren't even competitive. 0 runs in back-to-back games. The Sox haven't won back-to-back games all season. There's lifeless at bats. Pitchers are grinding. They're trying to give you 5, give you 6. We're facing some tough hitting, but good pitching will beat good hitting. We just haven't had the good pitching. But it's this offense that, if we had games like the first 2 games of the Tampa series, but it just hasn't felt like it. And it feels like those 2 games were outliers more than, the common factor. Is this all because of Tim Anderson? He left, obviously hurt, and everything fell apart. We just don't have that spark at the top. We don't have the guy that's supposed to, get everything going for this team. It feels like it. But yeah, the flat out quit part, I feel it too. Here's another comment. Why did we hire a Royal? Came from a squad of losers, can't coach anything but losing. Is Ozzie Guillen busy? And also got another comment about Ozzie should have been the new manager. Now, Grifol, I said it on this podcast way back when he was hired. I thought Grifol was an odd choice. I like that they finally went outside of the organization. They just didn't bring back Jim Thome or AJ Pierzynski or something. They got a guy that, a lifetime baseball guy, highly respected, a lot of great things said about him. I was questioning the winning department. I mean, the Royals, okay, they won the World Series, 2015, and they went to it the previous year in 2014. And again, Pedro Grifol has seen the White Sox from across the diamond a lot over his time, but I was looking for a proven manager, somebody that has managed in the big leagues with success to take this group, mold them, get them ready to make the next step. If Hahn really believed that he had the roster to compete for a division title and beyond, if he really believed that, why go with a guy that's never managed before? And there were a lot of rumors about Ozzie Guillen. I think he was interviewed, and maybe he even had a second interview. And honestly, I thought it was going to happen. I thought Jerry was going to say, okay, we'll try to do it your way, but I really think let's give Ozzie another chance here. I think he's got the fire. I think he knows this team. I honestly thought it was going to happen. It just felt like it. So when Jerry wanted to change things up at manager and believed the team was ready to win now and needed a guy to take them to the finish line, I mean, he brought in a 3-time World Series manager. It was still a very odd choice. The timing of it, everything really bizarre. But that's who he picked, somebody that's managed before and had success. Again, I don't want to dump on Grifol at all. I mean, like he said in his comments after Wednesday's loss, you don't control the cards you are dealt. And he has, I think, been dealt some really crummy cards. He's trying. I think he's making some typical rookie managerial mistakes. I think the honeymoon phase is pretty much over. How these guys, look at him, I don't know. That was my whole big worry in the offseason was, hey, will they buy into what Grifol is selling? It's one thing for Grifol to pitch all of these changes and ideas, and this is the way we're going to do things. But are these players going to buy in? Are they going to look at him like, what have you ever done? You've never managed in this league before. So I don't know. I did, going back to that comment, I kind of did think it was going to be Ozzie Guillen back in November, whenever that hire was made. Another comment here. This team is less fun than any of the teams of the rebuild years. Yeah, 2017 through, I guess, 2019. In that shortened 2020 year, they made the playoffs. That was a fun team in 2020 under some difficult circumstances, but that was a fun team. Yeah, 2017, 2018, 2019, they had rough teams, but winning was not the end goal. And we had that hope of like, we'll weather this. we'll survive this as a fan base because we are anticipating brighter pastures. The Sox are going to spend their money correctly. They're going to get generational talent. They're going to put it all together when the time is right. And now looking back on all that stuff is just sickening. Great comment here. I feel like I'm in a horror movie where in a twist ending, I realize the White Sox are no better as a franchise than KC or Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh, man, they are having a ton of fun right now. I mean, first place in the NL Central, 16-8. The Royals, on the other hand, are only like a game worse than the White Sox in the standings. So the Sox very well could be in the cellar after this 4-game series with Tampa. Seems like they couldn't care less. Yeah, this is going back to that comment of it feels like the Sox have just quit. The players have quit. I mean, Grifol is keeping his cool, but contrary to my previous statements at the beginning of this episode, maybe he needs to unleash the beast and pull an Ozzie and just, start throwing people under the bus and calling people out. But will he lose the clubhouse completely at that point then? I mean, will players care even less after a guy like Pedro Grifol, who, again, doesn't have, a stellar resume? He's got a baseball resume, but not a managerial resume. When he starts saying that kind of stuff, will they just roll their eyes and not pay attention? That's what I don't know. So far, they have proven that 81 season was a miracle. Yeah, looking back on last year, and you're like, man, that was a disaster that season. Most disappointing season in White Sox history. They were 81. And after 25 games last year, the Sox were 12-13. I would love to have that situation right now. Great comment here. I've been following this team since I was 5 in 1954. I have never been this disappointed. There's no fire on this team. There's no leader. 2005 had Ozzie keeping the fire lit. Konerko, a quiet leader, but nonetheless a leader. Yeah, I've told people, and I've had these conversations, if you had a 2005 World Series sweatshirt or t-shirt or hat, like wear it every now and then. Bring it out of the closet or in storage, or maybe you wear it regularly just to remind yourself that happened. We actually had a World Series championship because, that team had a ton of different leaders, and Ozzie, it felt like Ozzie took it himself in front of the media. He made himself out to be the scapegoat when the team was underperforming. What he said behind closed doors, I'm not really sure. Sometimes he would tell us what he would say, but you hate to go back to so far in the past, but that's where our most recent big success was. I think something needs to change. Someone needs to shake things up if this team is going to flip the script. And a closed door meeting, meetings. Ozzie used to say, bad teams have meetings. But maybe you need something like that. Something to just, spark a couple guys, get the ball rolling. It is just, it's nothing like I ever anticipated. Not all the comments that I received were of the negative nature. I did ask for some positive comments, if anybody had them, because really I need some encouragement with the Tampa Bay Rays coming to town. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially because we're always growing and changing. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way we do until we talk through things. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. So again, thank you, everybody, for chiming in. I really appreciate all the comments and the stuff that you always, the YouTube comments are great. The ones that have been, corresponding on lockdownsocks@gmail, the stuff I get on Twitter. I try to respond to as much of it. And, it means a lot that after this season that we're having right now, you guys are still coming back. And I do appreciate all the listenership. So some positives. I guess this is more of like a question with a positive tone. Is there a chance they can turn this around? Now, I feel like every season there is a time when the White Sox, go on a run at some point. I mean, that's common with most MLB teams. I mean, in 2018, 2019, they had a few 5-game winning streaks, but for this 2023 team, 5 games is not enough. I mean, they need to win for like a whole month at this point. They need to flip it and go like 17, and 8 or something. It's just they need a massive run, and they maybe need 2 of them to even like start sniffing and feeling good about the 500 level. And the AL Central is weak, but the Twins aren't going to stop playing. The Guardians aren't going to stop playing to wait for us to try to figure something out if that's possible. So you're trying to win while also obviously the Twins, they sense blood in the water. They see what's going on with the White Sox. Guardians are floundering. Like, well, we might actually be able to get this division. We might be able to get it early. Like, let's not stop. Let's keep going after it. So it is a tough road to plow right now for the Chicago White Sox. Got another one here. While I'm still here, I'm watching every game because it's precious. Life's too short. Enjoy it while you can. And that's true. I mean, for me, it's a connection. The White Sox are a connection between my past, and something I hope to share with my kid, going forward into the future. I don't have a second favorite MLB team. I'm a 4th generation Chicago White Sox fan, multi-generational, as I know so many of you are. This is all I know is just White Sox baseball. It's like a second language. So it's just so disappointing. Here we are at the end of April, and this is what the Sox have shown us. And then another comment here, can't get any worse. Well, the problem with that is it might. Tampa Bay is coming into town for a 4-game series. We played them tough in the first 2 games, and then it didn't, or I'm sorry, it was a 3-game series last weekend. We played them tough the first 2 and lost pretty comfortably in the series finale. This series here on the South Side is a 4-game series. You got Dylan Cease on the hill kicking things off on Thursday night. Tampa Bay will send McClanahan to the mound, that lefty who has got some nasty stuff. This is going to be a repeat of that game 2 from last weekend. It was the Saturday game that was on Fox with Tom Verducci and Jason Benetti. Cease's final line from last weekend against the Rays: 4 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, a home run, a walk, 5 strikeouts. My hope for Dylan Cease is to minimize the amount of pitches. I mean, they pile up, and the Rays had really good at bats against him. They were following pitches off. He did not have that wipeout stuff. They wouldn't let him have that stuff. So I don't know if it's, hey, I might have to just pitch to some contact tonight. Do you trust the defense behind you? Because you got to go more than 4. I mean, we need Dylan Cease to have, his B plus stuff if he's not going to have one of his amazing outings with his A stuff, which is rare. And we need him to go 6 or 7. And then we need somehow, some way, the Sox bats to get going. I mean, the White Sox should have a great scouting report prepared, but so should the Tampa Bay Rays. Unfortunately, I trust Tampa's report and preparation a little bit more. Hey, but anything can happen. Folks, thank you so very much for making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. We're on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Pass that along to other White Sox fans in your life. White Sox take on the Tampa Bay Rays. Dylan Cease on the hill. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with Sirius XM and the SXM app. Search White Sox. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. And hey, everydayers, on the next episode, I will recap Dylan Cease's outing and hopefully, by some miracle perhaps, be celebrating a White Sox winner. Really do appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. Nick Morawski, until next time, go Sox.